What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here talking all things Brownies, and we have a lot to discuss. But I kind of want to start the show off with one last, just takeaways, thoughts, all that on Perrion Winfrey and the entire situation. Because the biggest takeaway in my eyes is, what a shame. I know I played the lottery the other day, and I did not win. But Perrion Winfrey had won the lottery. He got to go play in the National Football League. All he had to do was just not screw it up. And it's not that difficult. You just can't go to a hotel lobby and then follow a girl outside and say, I'm going to smack the shit out of you or something like that. But he did do that after screwing up multiple times earlier. So some takeaways and thoughts I just want to share right off the bat here. And I kind of jotted some of them down. I do find it a bit interesting that Perrion Winfrey has been at the center of just Browns, message boards and talk shows like this and whatnot, despite him being a fourth-round draft pick. Have you ever seen or remember a fourth-round draft pick having so much pressure to play and deliver like a first-round draft pick? I don't remember Harrison Bryant, for example, having this much pressure. And I think the reason why is because going into that draft, we were all addicted to finding a defensive tackle. We all did our mock drafts, and we all unanimously picked Perrion Winfrey in the second round. So when he was there in round 4, it felt like the Browns won the lottery. We got the guy we were all looking for 2 rounds later. And so then we went into this offseason with defensive tackle being a bigger point of emphasis. We felt like we had an ace in our back pocket. Perrion Winfrey is going to get his shit together, and he's going to be an awesome defensive tackle for this team. He ended the year a lot better than he started it. This is going to be the difference maker for the Browns, and it just didn't happen. And as for the Cleveland Browns side of things here, they are starting to enter that last chance water, where it felt like players that were not catching on elsewhere were getting second or third opportunities in Cleveland. Malik McDowell, now we have Perrion Winfrey, specifically the defensive line for whatever reason. But the Perrion Winfrey saga comes to an end, and that is that. Now, some other quick news I want to touch on at the start of the show. Brad Stainbrook tweeted out earlier the Browns had wide receiver Jahcour Pearson in for a workout today, which went well, but he won't be signing at this time. The Browns added a cornerback a few weeks ago, and now they're working out a wide receiver. 2 positions I thought they were maybe the deepest at. So I'm not quite sure what Andrew Berry's up to, but I found that interesting and I wanted to share. And Aaron Wilson tweeted this out not long earlier or later or whatever. The Browns hosting free agent linebacker Clarence Hicks, 6'2", 230 pounds, 4.4 speed for a workout today, according to a league source, UTSA Football. So this position makes a lot more sense as a linebacker, a position of need for Cleveland. But let's get into our rumors and news today with our friend Bernie Kosar as kind of a scale of believability. So, are the Browns signing a defensive tackle? I'm going to give this one 2 Bernie heads. I'm kind of right in the middle where I think it could go either way, and I wouldn't be blown away whether they signed one or they didn't sign one. Because when we look at the Cleveland Browns depth chart, there's no more Perrion Winfrey there, but there are still some other names there, right? You have Jordan Elliott, who is going to make this roster. You drafted Siaka Ika. So you are looking for one more defensive tackle with Dalvin Tomlinson a lock as well if the Browns do take 4. And you have 3 guys competing for that 4th spot. Tommy Togiai, Tristan Hill, and Maurice Hurst. So I would not be shell-shocked if they don't go out and sign someone because they already felt like they had a pretty good and improved defensive line after signing Dalvin Tomlinson and drafting Ika, and they retained Jordan Elliott. That really only leaves one spot unless they want to roll with 5 defensive tackles. But at the same time, there are some guys out there that are better than Tommy Togiai and Tristan Hill, for example. There is a bigger point of emphasis now on Siaka Ika really delivering, right? The pressure just got added because going into it beforehand, it was a little bit more of, hey, we've got Perrion Winfrey. He's entering his 2nd season. We're not going to have such a big need for Ika to be a crucial player on this defensive line. Unfortunately, with no more Perrion Winfrey, Ika does have some more pressure added to his plate. So we've got that coming up here. But we're going to look at some other stats and whatnot for the other players because Maurice Hurst and Tristan Hill, along with Tommy Togiai, they have all had checkered backgrounds, if you will, right? Different backgrounds. Tommy Togiai, Maurice Hurst, Tristan Hill, all coming from various spots, right? Tommy Togiai, a draft pick by Cleveland. Hurst has been a journeyman. Tristan Hill, a former second-round pick. We are checking all of our bingo cards right now for different types of settings and backgrounds for these three players. The best of the bunch, in my eyes, would be Maurice Hurst. He's got the most experience. He has 8 sacks in his NFL career. He's never quite caught on, but we're not asking for him to catch on as a starting defensive tackle. We're more or less asking for him to be a valuable member in a rotation. But let me know, should the Browns sign a defensive tackle? Yes or no? I'm leaning towards yes because this is a committee's position, right? It's not just 2 starters. And we know that defensive tackles in the NFL, they need to get some rest, right? They can't play 100% of snaps. No one does. The best play maybe 70% or something like that. So if you're going to have a good rotation going, I'd like to see them add some more depth to it. The upside for the Browns is at least it happened in terms of moving on from Perrion Winfrey the year they are playing in the NFL Hall of Fame game because it gives them an extra preseason game. It gives them a longer training camp so they can have a better sense as to whether or not they need to go external or if the guys they have in-house are good options for the Browns. We're going to look at a quick list here of some free agent defensive tackles, but we'll go more in depth on these guys on our episode coming out tomorrow. But Shelby Harris, Matt Ioannidis, Chris Wormley, William Gholston, and I just tossed on Ndamukong Suh for the memes. I mean, it's not going to happen, at least not in August. I think if he does sign, he might sign with a contender, which fingers crossed would be the Browns, in like October like he did with Philly this year. But the top 2 guys on the list are the 2 guys I have at the top, Shelby Harris and Matt Ioannidis. But we'll do a complete breakdown on these names later on. Now, moving on to our second story today. Is Andrew Berry, is he a bad drafter? I'm going to give it 2 Bernie heads. I also think it's kind of right down the middle because there are some good picks. There are some bad picks. So we're going to do a complete deep dive on Andrew Berry as a drafter because this was a miss, Perrion Winfrey, and they might have seen it coming. But before we get into all of that, today's Cleveland Browns report is sponsored by Z-Biotics. Let's face it, after y'all hit me with a bunch of super chats, I don't bounce back well the next day, but that is until I found Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. Drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Now, you guys can see here that it comes in these little bottles that make it really lightweight and really easy to travel with. So if you're going on a bachelor party, for example, it's super easy to stick in your bag. So go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription as well so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/chatsports and use the code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring today's video. Before we really get into the weeds on Andrew Berry as a GM when it comes to drafting, I do want to say drafting is very hard. There is no GM who has an A-plus draft grade in their history. They all have misses. They all have hits. It's a crapshoot. Even the best GMs, like Bill Belichick, he's not the best at drafting. Go talk to N'Keal Harry about that, or Patriots fans, right? They all have their fair share of misses. So this is not something that is unique to Barry. But unfortunately, Winfrey was a miss. So let's run through his draft so far, excluding this past year. Way too early to even grade that. But I gave letter grades out to all the picks, and you can argue, with them. But I gave, for example, Jedrick Wills a B-. Is he a starting tackle in the NFL? Yes, and he will be for a good portion of his career. Like, he is going to be a starting left tackle for some team for, I think, 8 to 10 years. Was he worthy of a 10th overall selection? No. Were there better players behind him? Yes. So to me, it's a B-. Grant Delpit, it's a bummer what happened in his rookie season, but I think for a second-round pick, and you have to weigh in where they were selected, he's been pretty good. B+. I think that's a fair grade for him. Jordan Elliott, C-. It's the third round, so you're not going to find day one starting talent, but he has not developed into a rotating piece on this defensive line that's worth anything. Jacob Phillips, I gave a C to. It's hard to grade him due to all the injuries. Harrison Bryant, for being a fourth-round pick, I think he's done pretty well, so he got a B in my eyes. Plus, I'm just one of the biggest Harrison Bryant fans out there. Nick Harris, B. It's also tough to grade. We just haven't seen a lot of him, but I felt pretty confident about him over, going into this past season, or 2 years ago, whatever now. DPJ as a sixth-rounder, this is an A grade for me. 2021, Newsome gets a B. I look back at that draft. I don't think there's anyone directly behind Newsome that's been better. But are there better picks that could have been made? Yes. But Greg Newsome is still a starting corner. And for that being the selection at pick, 26, 24? Pretty solid in my eyes. JOK, B. Schwartz for a third rounder has to be better. That's an F. Hudson's kind of middle of the road. Tommy Togiai has not been very good, but it's also the fourth round. You know what you're getting. Tony Fields, I think, has been great on special teams. Give him a B+ for a fifth-round pick. Richard LeCounte was one of 3 picks to be cut by Andrew Barry, so D. And Demetric Felton, he scored some touchdowns. For a sixth-rounder, you can't ask for a whole lot more. He gets a C in my eyes. Now, it's pretty early to grade the 2022 NFL Draft. I kind of hate myself for even putting grades out there, but I gave Martin Emerson an A. Again, a third-rounder for having that special of a rookie season. I'll give that an A. Alex Wright, C-, but again, it's only been one season. Don't take these too seriously. David Bell, C, kind of average, right? Winfrey's an F. There's no other way around it. It was objectively a failure. Cade York, C, and I just can't grade anyone else because I just haven't seen enough of Jerome Ford to give an actual grade. Under Andrew Barry, the Cleveland Browns have had 3 picks in the top 50 of the 20 of all the drafts he's drafted in, 12 selections in the top 100, and he has not drafted a single Pro Bowler. So he hasn't had a ton of ammunition, right? Just 3 picks in the top 50. Jedrick Wills, Greg Newsome, JOK, I believe those are the 3, yeah. Or Grant Delpit, but he's been okay, but he hasn't had a ton of picks to work with, which is somewhat of his own doing. He wanted to get Deshaun Watson, and I support that move. Deshaun Watson's better than whoever you were getting in those rounds anyway, in my eyes. But if you had to grade Andrew Barry as a drafter alone, what letter grade would you give it? A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know in the comment section below if you had to give it a grade, what grade it would be. For me, I'm going to give it a B-. I mean, we can't factor in this past draft, even though I think he really killed this past year's draft, looking back at it. But he's got some good hits. Martin Emerson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. But Jedrick Wills at 10 is probably one he'd like to go back and redo. Greg Newsome, I don't think he would redo it, but Asante Samuel Jr. went not long after. So maybe that's one you'd like to flip-flop right there. But all in all, I think he's been a B- drafter, which isn't bad. B- isn't bad. I can't really argue he's had an A, job at drafting guys so far because he does have his fair share of misses in day 2 of the draft. Anthony Schwartz, and then early on day 3 with Perrion Winfrey. There's some other examples like that. My final subject on today's episode: are the Browns 3-2 before the season already starts? Yeah, 4 birdie heads, baby. You can believe it. Now, you might not like being 3-2, or you might love being 3-2, depending on what your expectations are. But I am here to tell you, The Cleveland Browns, as I stand here on July 20th, when we film this during our live show, are 3-2. How do I know that? Uniforms. The Whiteout Series schedule was announced, and I have already dubbed all 3 games as wins. You're not losing with these incredible whiteouts. I mean, Steelers, 49ers, Jets, pack it up. Keep the bus running because the Browns have already won before kickoff. So where are the 2 losses coming? I literally, audibly out loud said, fuck, the moment I saw the Browns were playing the Colts in Week 7, and these were the Colts' alternate uniforms. I know some people aren't a big fan of them. I'm a big fan of them. I think they're pretty fresh. I think the jerseys have a cool, texture going on to it. The black helmets, yeah. I don't think the Browns can go in there and beat them with their wearing these uniforms. I know it sounds crazy, but you look good, you feel good, you play good. And the other loss is unfortunately the very next week. How the hell are the Browns supposed to go to Seattle and beat Seattle when they're wearing these throwback unis from the 80s and 90s? There is no way. It is impossible. So, congratulations. I think if I told you the Browns would go 3-2 in those 5 games, I think you'd take it. I think I would take it too. The Colts, I think they could have beat, but the Colts might be the Falcons game this year, where they have no business losing, and it happens to every team, at some point in the season. Even the Chiefs lost to the Colts last year. Now, there are some numbers that disagree with my train of thinking or train of thought, which is if you wear sick alternate throwback uniforms, you are destined to win. I actually spent the man hours this morning, went through all 2022 alternate and throwback uniforms and calculated their records. They went 12, 13, and 1. So we had 25 games last year where a team was wearing an alternate or throwback uniform, and they went almost 500 to the T. So it's kind of a coin toss, which is pretty fitting because even though I like to think that alternate uniforms have a major impact on the game, evidently not. You are still exactly 500. So is what it is. So that's going to do it for us on today's show. But I do want to ask really quickly, which game are you most excited for in the comment section? I think after going through the schedule a little bit right there, that 49ers game is going to be a lot of fun. Coming after the bye, they have to deliver. They have to take down Mr. Shanahan. But how could I be so forgetful? We have pick a card time now. We didn't do it on our Perrion Winfrey released episode because I came into the office so heated, I didn't even think to grab my cards. So, Big Tex behind the mic today or behind the camera, which card do you want to go with?
Let's go with the 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds? Okay, I like that selection. I'm going to go with the 9 of spades. One last cut. 10 of hearts. 10 of hearts. Okay, that is it for today's show. A bit of a longer episode. My apologies. We'll get you guys on out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day.